My name is Stretto. Welcome to episode 4 of Pink Elephant Foxtrot. Sherlock's Razor. In late October of 2021, a luminous sphere arrived in my neighborhood and became the guest that wouldn't leave. It would return nightly to the same coordinates for nearly a month, moving west across the sky. On November 13th, I discovered that it wasn't alone. When I stepped out my front door on the evening of November 13th, the sphere was impossible not to notice. It looked closer than usual, so I got out my phone and started filming. Holding the phone at chest level so I could watch the sky as I filmed, I took a series of 5 videos starting at 9:48. This was the third video, taken at 9:53 p.m., and it seems to show another luminous object to the lower left of the sphere. They move in synchronicity, almost as if they are attached. While I was filming the fourth video at 10:12 p.m., which has a wider view, I could still see a faint light flashing below and to the left of the sphere, but it was just too small to zero in on with my cell phone camera. It was shortly after I started filming the fifth video at 10:15 that I saw a brilliant series of flashes surround the sphere. They started on the right and made an arc above it, moving left. The flashes were very bright as a strobe light, and there was something solid within each flash that was visible with the naked eye. Whatever this object was, it was silent and seemed to be able to hover and accelerate rapidly. It maneuvered far differently than a helicopter or a plane. From the outset, even before I examined the video, it seemed to me that what I had just witnessed was purposeful and intelligently controlled. When I went through the video frame by frame that evening, I counted 25 flashes in all. I made them into freeze frames, and they appear to show a disc with a dome flying from right to left above the sphere. In some frames it appears silver, while in others a bright orange. The pictures are grainy, but they're clear enough to show that this is no conventional aircraft. The question is, whose is it and where does it come from? When these images are time-lapsed, the maneuverability of the disc seems to be quite similar to the object filmed by the Navy in 2015, nicknamed the Gimbal. That object was also disc-shaped and capable of rotating at high speed. I'm not a scientist. In fact, I failed science class in 7th grade. But I do remember that bit about Occam's razor. It is perhaps the most democratic of scientific principles because it states that anyone, scientist or not, can apply simple common sense in order to solve a problem. The fictional detective Sherlock Holmes carried Occam's philosophy one step further. He said, "When you have eliminated all which is impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth." After I made freeze frames of the video from November 13th, Sherlock's razor echoed in my head. Could the sphere be a star or a planet? Visually, the sphere seemed much larger than a planet or a star, and it appeared to be within our atmosphere. Over the course of a few hours, it would move many more degrees in the sky than a planet or a star. It also had an odd corona that flashed at times and exhibited some sort of energy burst or explosion. If these were the only clues to go on, we really wouldn't be able to make a determination either way. But the video evidence from November 6th, which shows the sphere arriving in broad daylight and brightening as it settles into my neighborhood, makes the possibility of the sphere being a star or a planet improbable. The November 13th video of what appears to be a domed craft encircling the sphere also points away from a conventional explanation. Most of my focus up until this point had been on the sphere. It was the largest pink elephant in the sky over my neighborhood, but it wasn't the only one. On the evening of October 30th, 2021, I didn't notice the sphere until a neighbor pointed it out to me. Prior to that, my attention had been drawn to another bright light southwest of the sphere that was also quite curious. It appeared to be moving slightly and proved difficult to photograph because it was farther away from the sphere and not nearly as bright. These still photographs were taken on November 14th, 2021, and at first glance they resembled Jupiter and 4 of its moons, so at the time I didn't pay much attention to them until the same object returned in early September of 2022. On the evening of September 3rd, 2022, I was in my backyard as I saw it float in rapidly from the south and settle into a different part of the sky than it had in 2021. It was much closer this time and would end up returning nightly for most of that month. I made several attempts to film this object, but it was difficult because it kept moving out of frame. For example, this video, taken on September 3rd at 11 p.m., is 3 minutes and 51 seconds long and was taken with my camera mounted on a tripod. I had taken a short 4-minute video right before this one, and the object had been perfectly centered in my viewfinder, but over the course of just 4 minutes, it had moved substantially. Each time I filmed it, it would move out of frame within 3 to 4 minutes. If we watch the video in fast motion, you can see the trajectory. Also visible are two faint lights diagonal to the object, both above and below it. They are very similar to the light we saw to the left of the sphere in a prior video, and like that light, these two move in tandem with the object as it leaves the frame, as if all three objects were somehow connected together. After I filmed this video, I edited all of the photos I had taken the previous year, searching for a connection between the second object and the sphere. I wasn't sure what I was looking for exactly, but in the end, it proved quite elementary. You don't need Sherlock's razor to slice through 1 degree of separation. They arrived at the same party separately, and were never seen together in the same room, but they were spotted flirting with the same guest. Next on Pink Elephant Foxtrot, an excerpt from the book Storyboard of a Dream. From the corner of my eye, dreams, premonitions, and visitations. It is hard to separate fact from illusion in the twilight zone between consciousness and unconsciousness. Many people experience their most intense dreams during rapid eye movement, but for me, the twilight zone is sometimes more vivid. Whether it be strange lights or solid objects, you can't always trust what you see from the corner of your eye. I once called the police because I thought I saw an intruder coming through my apartment window. That time the illusion was just that, an illusion. It could have been worse. Comic Mike Birbiglia suffers from a sleepwalking disorder that caused him to leap through the second-story plate glass window of a hotel. He hit the lawn uninjured and just kept running. There is plenty of illusion to be had in dreams, but there is also profound truth to be discovered in all the various sleep states, and sometimes that peripheral flash just before deep sleep is amazingly premonitory. How do we separate the truth from illusion? And if we can't, what does the illusion really mean? And if the illusion is hiding something, when is it safe to chase after it? A funny thing happens when you pay attention to dreams and the peripheries of consciousness. Small details during waking hours that would otherwise go unnoticed take on a larger significance, and in fact can become symbols and metaphors that shouldn't be ignored. I was viewing an apartment once when something struck me as I was exiting. The frame around the entrance wasn't complete. There was a 6-inch gap of missing wood above the door, and the moment I noticed it, I knew deep down that my time there would somehow be interrupted. A few months after I moved in, I had to move out because the building was sold and the rent tripled. This is an example that is quite subtle, and it belongs in the twilight zone. But there are many examples of precognition throughout history, and most of them involve dreams. Many are contained in the Bible and in ancient Greek and Roman literature, but there are some interesting contemporary examples of precognition that defy explanation. Elias Howe invented the sewing machine after seeing the details of the needle mechanism in a dream. 2 weeks before his assassination, Abraham Lincoln had a vivid and detailed dream in which he viewed his own body lying in state in the White House. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity was inspired by a dream in which he was sledding at the speed of light. And physicist Niels Bohr's dream about the structure of the atom was proven wholly accurate. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there are those who cannot or are reluctant to enter a dream state, and the result of sleep, more so dream deprivation, can be deadly. Insomnia can have many causes, but sometimes what we see from the corner of our eye can truly frighten. Queen Elizabeth I was haunted by guilt for ordering the execution of her cousin, Mary Queen of Scots, and was quite afraid of falling asleep in the days before she died. Nightmares can take many forms. Swing the pendulum further and we enter another world entirely: sleep paralysis and alien abduction. There is a debate as to whether or not the alien abduction experience is a form of sleep paralysis, but that is too easy a dismissal. The commonality of details among people spanning centuries, continents, and cultures makes such a blanket diagnosis insufficient. There seem to be two choices. Either the experiences of alien abductees are physically real, or there are a series of commonly shared alien and UFO archetypes rooted deep in our collective unconscious as a species. Psychologist Carl Jung approached the topic in his short book, Flying Saucers, a modern myth of things seen in the skies. He believed that UAPs were physically real and deserving of scientific study, but he was more concerned about their role as myth. The fact that UAPs and the abduction phenomenon have taken on a mythological role in our culture is undeniable, but it doesn't explain the physical trace cases. Many people who claim abduction during the night wake up with strange scars caused by the high heat of a laser, or with a small scoop of skin missing from an arm or a leg, or with mysterious puncture wounds, or with images or information they simply shouldn't have in their head. It is hard to describe what it feels like to have half of your body in quicksand and the other half grasping at dry land. I say this because throughout my life, I have seen things in the sky that I could not and still cannot explain. When I was around 10 years old, I saw two disc-shaped craft circling each other above a local park on a summer afternoon. It was still light out, about 4 or 5 o'clock daylight savings time, as I watched them fly around each other playfully. Incredulous at what I was seeing, I rubbed my eyes for several seconds in case it was just an illusion. When I opened my eyes, it was dark, after dusk, and the lights were gone. That's where the memory of that day ends, but the next day I noticed a small scoop mark of skin missing from my knee. It stung, but it never scabbed. I just assumed I got it from falling off my bike. This is my first memory of seeing something strange in the sky. I have no idea what occurred during the missing time, if there was any, or even if this experience was real. It absolutely feels like a real memory, but I didn't write about it or tell anyone at the time, so there is no way to corroborate it. And I'm not a believer in hypnosis. Or maybe I just know when to leave well enough alone. Thanks for tuning in to episode 4 of Pink Elephant Foxtrot. Music was by Tom Young. Have you seen or photographed something in the sky that you can't explain? Please consider sharing it with the show. Anonymity guaranteed. You can help the show out by hitting that subscribe button and visiting pinkelephantfoxtrot.com, where you can find t-shirts and other items with original art and UAP imagery. If you are interested in custom ordering fine art prints on paper or metal, get in touch. Stretto@pinkelephantfoxtrot.com. Coming up on episode 5 of Pink Elephant Foxtrot, Underthrown. On January 7, 1943, the body of 81-year-old inventor Nikola Tesla was discovered by a maid in the Hotel New Yorker. In keeping with his obsession with the number 3, his room number was 3327 and was located on the 33rd floor. On episode 5 of Pink Elephant Foxtrot, we examine the suppression of Nikola Tesla's pioneering work on weapons and clean energy, and the cover-up after his death. Don't miss it.